Nobody expected Will Smith to walk through those courtroom doors, not the lawyers, not the jury, and certainly not Diddy. The air was thick with tension, broken only by hushed whispers that fell abruptly silent as Hollywood's beloved Fresh Prince stepped into the spotlight. For 2 decades, Will had smiled through red carpets, laughed off uncomfortable questions, and kept his darkest secrets locked away. But now, standing alone before stunned faces, he wasn't here to entertain. He was here to finally speak his truth. And when Will opened his mouth, nobody was prepared for the disturbing reality he exposed about one of Hollywood's most influential figures, Sean "Diddy" Combs. But the truth Will brought to that courtroom didn't begin in front of flashing cameras or shocked jurors. It started quietly, years earlier, behind closed doors. For decades, Will Smith had mastered the art of hiding pain beneath charm, masking trauma behind Hollywood charisma. Yet something changed that day. No entourage, no lawyers, just Will, alone and determined. He wasn't there as a superstar. He was a man tired of carrying secrets too heavy for any fame to disguise. The shift in the courtroom was instant. Diddy, once confidently lounging, suddenly stiffened, sensing danger in the silence. As Will took the witness stand, eyes focused straight ahead, the room braced for a revelation no one saw coming. Yet the disturbing revelations that stunned the courtroom began with what seemed like an ordinary invitation: Diddy's birthday bash. Will had attended countless Hollywood parties before, but from the moment he stepped foot inside that hillside mansion, he knew this night was different. Black SUVs lined the driveway, security swiftly confiscated phones for privacy, and the atmosphere felt off. Dim lights, hypnotic music, mirrors everywhere, reflecting unsettling shadows. It wasn't long before Will sensed something darker lurking beneath the glamour, something the powerful guests clearly didn't want escaping those mansion walls. But nothing prepared Will for what awaited him beyond the party's glamorous facade. When Diddy invited him into a private backroom, Will assumed they'd discuss business, a typical Hollywood exchange. Instead, he walked straight into a nightmare. Celebrities he recognized were engaging in disturbing activities, some clearly too young to be there, while others watched, unfazed, as if it was entertainment. And at the center stood Diddy, laughing casually, as if this horrifying scene was perfectly normal. Will froze, realizing he'd crossed a line he could never uncross, trapped in a darkness disguised as celebration. But leaving the mansion didn't mean Will had escaped. His nightmare was just beginning. Days after the party, he received a chilling phone call from a blocked number. The voice on the other end spoke just 7 words. "Hope you had fun, Fresh Prince." It was subtle, but the message was loud and clear. It wasn't just a joke. It was said in a way to make him feel worried, a reminder that he'd been watched, marked, and pulled into something far deeper than he realized. Will tried to move on, convincing himself it was just a bad night and an odd prank. But then came the envelope, plain, unmarked, left at his office without explanation. Inside was a single flash drive. He nearly threw it away. Curiosity, though, got the better of him. When he plugged it in, what he saw left him frozen. Footage from the party, him, visibly disoriented, slouched on a couch, laughing at things he couldn't remember. The camera angle was deliberate, intimate, and invasive. He didn't even recall being in that state. But there he was, vulnerable and exposed. Then a voice behind the lens, calm, smug, unmistakable. "Diddy's. That's how we keep them." Will's stomach dropped. In that moment, he realized this wasn't just a party. It was a test, an initiation. And the video, it was leverage, proof that could be used to control, silence, or destroy him. He hadn't just attended an event. He'd been recorded, documented, and added to a private archive of secrets no one was meant to survive. The message was clear. Once you're in, you don't walk away, you get handled. And from that point forward, Will found himself trapped in a chilling game of psychological warfare. Invitations to more parties arrived, and when Will politely declined, his world began to crumble. Movie deals mysteriously vanished, longtime friends abruptly stopped calling, and vicious rumors spread like wildfire. Headlines questioned his sanity, his fidelity. Every damaging story felt targeted, precise, orchestrated. At first, Will questioned his own judgment, wondering if paranoia was getting the best of him. But soon, the pattern became unmistakable. These weren't random events. They were punishments, carefully crafted to silence him, orchestrated by someone powerful enough to control his every move. And as Will dug deeper, he discovered this wasn't just about him. It was about a system far more insidious than anyone dared to admit. Diddy's power didn't stop at music or celebrity cliques. It reached deep into the infrastructure of Hollywood itself. Will began noticing the subtle signs that had always been there. How casting decisions suddenly shifted without reason. How certain producers and agents avoided his name like it was radioactive. And how doors that were once wide open now quietly slammed shut. At industry galas and private gatherings, Diddy wasn't just another guest. He was treated like a kingmaker. Will recalled a haunting moment at a 2016 charity gala where a high-ranking executive from a major streaming platform slipped Diddy a USB drive and whispered, "Only you have the final cut." It wasn't just symbolism, it was a warning. People in that room weren't networking, they were submitting. Will described how celebrities, the same ones the public idolized, acted differently behind the scenes when Diddy was around. They laughed harder, bent lower, and tiptoed around him with the careful precision of people who knew one wrong move could destroy them. These weren't friendships, they were survival tactics. The deeper Will looked, the more he realized Diddy had built something more dangerous than influence. He had created a culture of quiet obedience, a world where fear wore the face of glamour and silence was the currency of protection. This wasn't about one man's abuse of power, it was about an entire industry built to help him keep it. The moment Will's words echoed beyond the courtroom walls, Hollywood descended into panic. Overnight, meetings were abruptly cancelled, movie deals stalled, and PR teams scrambled desperately, issuing vague statements about commitments to accountability and safety. Online, the public began piecing together clues, resurfacing old clips, highlighting interviews where Will visibly flinched at Diddy's name. Fans rewatched classic Fresh Prince episodes, suddenly noticing forced smiles and hidden sadness. And as the media frenzy erupted, Hollywood's elite were no longer whispering in admiration. They were nervously calculating the cost of association, swiftly distancing themselves from a man whose dark secrets were finally unraveling. When Will Smith finally stepped down from that witness stand, he didn't look triumphant. He looked free, like someone who had finally broken the chains of silence after decades of quiet torment. The judge herself, moved by the raw honesty she'd witnessed, acknowledged his courage in a rare public statement. But Will's truth wasn't just about him or Diddy. It had shattered an illusion, exposing an entire system built on manipulation, control, and fear. As the stunned courtroom emptied, everyone felt it. The silence was over. Hollywood could never go back. And Will Smith, once trapped by secrets, had finally reclaimed his voice and sparked a reckoning no one would soon forget.